You are welcome to SBC 103D, that is Protection Agencies and Community Relations. In the first unit of this course, we'll talk about social structure and community relations. And this unit will discuss issues such as social structure. It will further present some components of social structure, such as social statuses, roles, groups, aggregates, and the categories to help us understand the concepts of social structure. Concepts such as community relations and protection agencies and their effects are equally taken into consideration. You are welcome to the first session of this course, where the first session will talk about the concept of social structure. And I believe that this session will introduce us to the concepts of social structure that will help us to understand the course better. And I believe you will have fun, so that at the end of the course, we should be able to define social structure, identify various components of social structure, distinguish one component of social structure from the other. The concepts of social structure has been explained as the pattern relationship between people that persist over time, and the type of behavior and attitude that you and I exhibit are determined by our location in the social structure. For us to understand social structure very well, we need to come out with certain definitions proposed by various authors for us to appreciate the concepts very well. And the first definition we will talk about is that of Light and Killers in 1975. So they define social structure as the orderly pattern ways where individuals or group of people relate to each other in the society or in one of its parts. So it is clearly stated that they are looking at the orderly pattern ways. So the orderly pattern ways has to do with orderly way of doing things. The second definition we'll talk about will be that of Jerry and Jerry in 1991. They see social structure as the relatively enduring pathway or interrelationship of social structure. So they also see that for social structure to triumph, there should be interrelationship that exists between social elements within the social structure. So they came out with an example as a class structure, where in a class, one depends on the other person for a course, and the other person depends on another person for a course, and so on and so forth. The third definition we'll talk about will be the one that was proposed by Ginsberg in 1963. So he explains social structure as the one that consists of those human relations that has been achieved through certain definiteness of outline and a relative permanence. So you can see that for him, he sees social structure as certainly definiteness of outline and then a relative permanence. I guess you might be wondering, what is definiteness of outline? So definiteness of outline simply means that the acceptable way of doing things after a process. So here in a university, there is an advertisement, and after the advertisement, one is to buy the form. After buying the form, certain processes needs to go through. The person is admitted, matriculation starts, the person attend lectures, quizzes are written, exams will be written, and then the person graduates. So you see that there is a process, and within that process, we have tend to accept that process as part of the university. And therefore, the relative permanent, it is the changes that we have undergone as a university. So previously, the university was not as big as this. Certain courses were not being done, but over a period of time, those courses had been introduced. So that is what Ginsberg was talking about. So we look at the components of social structure. In other words, what are the things that are in the social structure? The first thing we'll consider will be statuses, and I believe that we have all heard the term status. So what comes to mind when we hear status? Okay, So statuses simply refers to the position that an individual occupies within the social structure. So it is the position that we occupy. So you can see that the position is highlighted. And example can be likened to the university. In the university, we have students, we have lecturers, we have vice chancellors, and so on and so forth. And in that statuses, we have what we term as status sets. And this status set is regarded as all the statuses. So the key word is all the statuses that one occupied at a particular point in time. So a typical example is a lecturer. So the lecturer is somebody's role model, somebody's teacher, somebody's father, somebody's son, and so on and so forth. So you can see that this person, being a lecturer, has so many statuses. And when we have all these statuses as one person, it is termed as status set. And the next thing that can be found in statuses is ascribed status. And ascribed status are statuses that are assigned to us by our group or society. What it means is that we don't have any control or whatsoever over that. It is given to us by our group. A typical example is our age, our sex. We don't have control as to whether to become a male or a female. And in direct opposition or direct difference is achieved status. And achieved status is a position that person attain largely through personal effort. So with this, personal effort is highly noted. So before somebody can become a husband, there should be a process of going through. And this person only needs to be married. Another example is that before somebody can become a lawyer, the person needs to go through. The person can go through school. The person cannot just be in the house and say that I'm a lawyer. No, there is a process that the person needs to go through. The next status that we talk about will be master status. And with this, it has to do with when one status overshadows all other status. So with that, in the example of the lecturer that we mentioned, we have so many statuses that happens to be for the lecturer, being a role model, being a father, being a son or daughter or whatsoever. We see that one status will overshadow the others, and that status is to teach, being a lecturer. So when we have one status overshadowing the others, it is termed as master status. I hope you get it. Good. The next thing that we talk about within the social structure are roles, and I believe you have all heard of the concept role. So what is a role? Okay, so roles are the behaviors, obligations, expectations, and privileges that is attached to a status. So once a person is given statuses, the person is expected to behave in a certain way, expected to perform a certain function, expectations, and then enjoy certain privileges for being the position that the person is occupying. And in that role, there is something we call role performance. And this role performance simply means that the actual behavior of a person who occupies a status. So a lecturer, the actual behavior of a lecturer is to teach. So the teaching becomes the role performance. And the next thing we talk about will be role sets. And role sets has to do with the situation where a single status come out with multiple roles that is attached to it. So the fact that you are a lecturer, you are given other responsibilities, and that other responsibilities include supervision, include counseling, and so on and so forth. So the fact that you are a lecturer, you are being given certain roles in addition to your teaching. The next thing is role conflicts. And this is when an individual is confronted with conflicting expectations stemming from their simultaneous occupancy of two or more statuses. So I'll still use the example of a lecturer. A lecturer is to supervise the students, and the same lecturer is to teach. So when there is conflicting expectations, the student is to complete school, and then the lecturer is to come to class to teach. We see that the same time we are to have these things. So when we are to have these things, it comes as a conflicting expectations. And when we have something like this, where we have the lecturer to teach and the lecturer to supervise the students, it is termed as role conflict. And the next thing we'll talk about will be role distance. And the role distance is subjective detachment that is displayed by a social actor while playing a role. So with this has to do with the actual displacement that has to do with the work that the person does. And the last thing we'll talk about will be role strain. And this has to do with the expectation of a single role in being incompatible. That is, the person having difficulty to perform the role. So the person responsibility is to teach. The person having certain difficulties in teaching, that is referred to as role strain. Next thing that we talk about within the social structure is group. And I believe that we have all heard of the term group. What is a group? Okay. So a group refers to as two or more people who share a feeling of unity and are bonded together in relatively stable patterns of social interaction. So when two or more people comes together by sharing a feeling of unity and are bonded together through social interaction, it is termed as a group. And this group can be primary, secondary, dyad, or triad. The primary group refers to the smallest group that is characterized by intimacy, face-to-face association, and cooperation. The secondary group refers to the formal, impersonal group which there is little or social intimacy or mutual understanding. So the difference between the two has to do with, for the primary, there is so much intimacy and it mostly happens within a rural area. And then the secondary group refers to where there is formal and impersonal association. So that one can be likened to the urban centers. Aside that, we have dyad, which is a two-member group. So you and then your friends, the two of you forms dyad. And then triad refers to a three-member group. So you, your wife, or your husband, and then your child. That is triad. I believe you understand. Yeah. The next thing that we talk about within the social structure is social institutions. And these institutions are the socially standard or organized way of meeting our needs. And it includes the religion, politics, economy, education, and so on and so forth. So these are the various institutions that can be found within the social structure. All too soon, we have come to the end of the session. You have just been thinking through the concept of social structure, the components, and the characteristics. We have been noted that in this session, social structure is the product of human interaction and that it makes life orderly and stable. You have also been thinking through some of the components of social structure, such as statuses and roles. And I hope you have enjoyed this session. Join us for the next session, and until we meet for the next session, bye for now. Thank you.